Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with another exciting night of strength-fulfilled racing in none other than the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly powered and sponsored by the sim racing hardware manufacturer CONSPIT. It is week number 11 of the 2025 Season 4 campaign. As we inch ever closer into the conclusion of what has been a brilliant year of sim racing, we have made our way to our penultimate destination. We are here in the American state of Florida for the Sebring International Raceway. 3.74 miles in length and consisting of 17 corners. The key part of this circuit is how rough and rugged it is, playing host to the annual 12 Hours of Sebring, many liken it to be tougher than Le Mans, with its mixture of modern asphalt and rugged old concrete surfaces harking all the way back to its early days as the Hendrix Army airfield of the Second World War. It is a circuit where the suspension rods of the cars we put through the ultimate test, and where our drivers need to find a fine balance between a car that is incredibly fast through the corners, but also one that is able to withstand the bumps, and that's going to be the key to going away with victory here today. But as we welcome you all to another live broadcast from our regular top split session, which is of course at 21:45 Greenwich Mean Time GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, each and every Wednesday. Well, we are set for an absolutely brilliant round of races today in week number 11, and we welcome you all to this broadcast live on YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX14TX or 30 Paul Walsh, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in. On our schedule for tonight, we've only got one race as always. It's a 13-lap race due to get underway in approximately 4 minutes' time. With qualifying currently going on in the background. And well, let's recap the story so far this season on what we've got lying in wait today. Because goodness me, have we got a round awaiting us, and we shouldn't dwell on it for too long. And as we can see, as we take a look back into our calendar, last time out we were in the US state of California at the Long Beach Street Circuit. On Wednesday the 19th of November, there was plenty of drama to unfold with a major incident into the fountain section on the opening lap, seeing almost half the field sent to the pit lane or retiring from the race. However, those who fell, well, it was to their detriment, and those able to survive the chaos and carnage, they came away with a huge result. None more so than Helder Gonzalez, who started in 4th, but he avoided most of the opening drama and started to lead the race very quickly and extended the gap to 3 seconds over Randolph Fredericks. Fredericks was able to close the gap down, but he needed a couple more laps in order to try and swipe away the lead from second place. Meanwhile, in third, it was a lonely story for Miguel Sierra, who was able to charge away to third place, with Julian Delgado not quite able to stay close. But there was a lot of drama last time out, with our lowest strength of field race since the history of the strength of field broadcast. But here today, we've got a very high strength of field. More on that in a brief moment, and we're very eager to see how all the drivers get on this fine Wednesday the 26th of November at the Sebring International Raceway, before we make our way all the way to the United Kingdom in a week's time to bring the curtain down on Wednesday the 3rd of December at the rather unconventional Snetterton circuit. But it's not unconventional to the technical test that the Porsche 992 Cup car presents, and we'll talk more about that in a week's time. But talking about our circuit then, well, of course, it is the international layout of Sebring's International Raceway, located near the town from which it takes its name in the Highlands County of the US state of Florida. 17 corners, many of them household names, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but also the absolutely superb track mats that come with it, with many of these corners, of course, being very flat out, minimal elevation change here, given the historical origin of this circuit as being part of a runway which is still in commercial use today, or the neighbouring runway to where the old tarmac and concrete seams of the circuit are. But the key theme around here is where it lacks an elevation change, it makes up in corner variety, whether it be hairpins, such as turn number 7, or alternatively sharp right-angled corners, such as Cunningham and Tower at turns 10 and 13, or the sweeping sections of Bishop through to the one at turns 14 through to 16, and of course, who could forget Sunset Bend at turn number 17 that gives way to a long start finish straight, and the wonderful Gendarmerie corner at turn number 1 to start the lap all over again. Rules-wise, we can't go racing without them. This is an open setup series, with setups taken to each and every round by our drivers. As to the grid, it shall be set via a closed qualifying session, as are the rules and regulations of Porsche Cup racing, and indeed, we will see the grid set via a standing start, as is the tradition. Now, the drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. Get to 25, they will be disqualified, but hopefully we don't see that. And as we make our way back to circuit side, well, let's take a sneak peek at what's going on between our drivers here, as they are coming to the close of this final qualifying session. And with only 2 minutes left on the clock and many drivers on their final flying laps, well, right now it does seem to be Luis Glania who is the fastest of all of them out there on what is a rather dry Sebring circuit, but also a relatively cool one. But as he makes his way on in for pole promotion esports, coming the fastest there in the number 2 car, we've got regular names on the grid as well as some fresh faces. But all in all, we have an incredibly high strength of field here today, a strength of field of 5,464, the second highest in the history of this broadcast. Of course, the highest being in week number 1 of season 3 of 2025 at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, where we did end up with a strength of field of 5,644. So we're not too far away from it, to be fair. Round up to 5,500 there, while strength of field indicated in the top left corner of your screen. And we've got so many brilliant names here, including the likes of Hayden Bramley, as he's demoted to 11th place there with improvements for Lendrosor, and also there to William Rasmussen. We've got plenty more improvements coming from drivers here, and it may not be all over until the final lap is turned in this qualifying session, because so many drivers here are improving very quickly, and only 2 flying laps available is a very short period in time in which to get it right, and it's a lot of pressure. We also do see the return to the grid, of course, of none other than Guy Edwards. Happy to see him back on the grid as he makes his way out the final corner, coming out of Sunset Bend. Currently 17th. Can he move a little bit further up? As meanwhile, Lino Cabrera, he moves all the way up into 9th place there, and Mitchum jumps up from no valid lap to 8th place at a 202.264, and Edwards stays in 18th. So a bit of frustrating end to his qualifying session, as we still do have a couple of laps remaining from the likes of Kim Andre Bjorland and also Vitor Alves, as Bjorland here sliding his way around. I don't think he's going to get to the end of this before the clock strikes 8 minutes. And of course, when the clock strikes 8 minutes, they won't be permitted to do any more laps. They'll have to go with the best one they've previously set. We don't have overtime in these close qualifying sessions, and I believe the same for Vitor Alves as he makes his way down the back straight. And well, right now he's not got enough time down Allman, and I think he's going to settle for what he's got in the all-white machine there. 10 seconds left on the clock, but I don't think he's going to make it the distance, ladies and gentlemen. And what that does mean is that qualifying is complete, and it is going to be William Rasmussen who makes it the pole position, as in the end, Alves just falls short slightly. He will stay 23rd, and it is time to head to the grid then and see how they all line up for our one and only race day in week 11 of our Strength of Field broadcast of the 2025 Season 4 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And as they all make the way to the grid, this is how they will begin the day. On home soil, he takes pole position. William Rasmussen for Rebellion Esports LMP2 delivers an absolutely brilliant pole lap there, 3/4 of a tenth faster than Luis Glania. That's a very tight margin. The German driver in the end will be a little bit upset to miss out on pole, but he's got plenty of opportunities to try and take it back. Ahead of the Belgian driver there of Vitor Corrales, who matched Glania's time, but did it later, and that's why he's 3rd and not 2nd. Goodness me, to be matched to 1,000th there, that's incredible. It was a further 3,000th there to the driver from Thailand of Ryan Sharpless, ahead of Tobias Olsen, who was a further 2,000ths behind for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing. And then we did have, starting in 6th place, Pole Racing's Joey Lorettiano. We then do see from the 17, the number 1 of Philip Hammer, the highest I-rated driver here today, 2 tenths off a pole for Pole Promotion Esports, and he will be in the company on the full row of the grid of newcomer Matt Mitchum, who on home soil is definitely impressive for Arte Esports. We then have a row at number 5, Oscar Rivella and Lino Cabrera, and then behind them on row number 6, it is going to be Elias Finoli, back of the grid once again. Glad to see the smiling Swede there, and he's ahead of the Argentine of none other than Ivan Lindroso. We then do have on row at number 7, Hayden Bramley and Benjamin Barator, the Granada driver there being followed up by Pole Sim Racing's Max Andrews, and then we do have none other than Scott Brazier line up 16th. From the Scot, it's then to Burkran Afkul from Turkey, ahead of Guy Edwards, who starts 18th, and then round off your top 20, it is going to be Rene Corta Sandoval, ahead of none other than Nicolas Gomez. The Brazilian driver will be followed up on row number 11 by Carl McGuinness, who starts a long way back today, but could that be the secret to success? If there's some drama, much like what we saw at Long Beach, where he delivered a brilliant top 5. If not, he'll have Kim Andre Bjorland alongside him, 22nd, and Vita Alves completes your starting order. But ladies and gentlemen, as quickly as that, the lights are going on. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. And it's lights out, away we go here at Sebring. 13 laps get underway, and William Rasmussen gets a brilliant start as the whole field pitches and fans out there all looking for an opportunity. But as they come down into gender being corner for the first time of asking, Vitor Corrales immediately side by side, but looking around the outside here, Glania into the opening corner as all the drivers sweep their way through. And right now everyone keeping it clean, but cold tyres and cold brakes will really come to fruition here at turn number 3. Also up the inside there, hold off Sharpless. And meanwhile we see Scott Brazier there try to look for a move on Bramley, but they're not able to do so. backs off as Bramley battling hard with Lino Cabrera. Cabrera, they're having a bit of a slow start. Car round, that's number 11, that's a nice Finoli, and the whole field has to split, but there's going to be another car sit round. That's Bramley being sent all the way to spin. Oh my goodness, car into the side of Bramley's wayward machine, and well, we'll come back to it shortly with a replay, but right now, let's stay transfixed to what's happening up front. Matt Mitchum there falling backward, battling with Cabrera now, and loses out to Oscar Rivella as they come out of the hairpin, but we can start to see a bit of split in the field as that's almost free wide down the exit of the hairpin, and that's going to be Alonso also ahead of Quinto Sandoval, and then we do have Benjamin Breteau battling on behind. But all these drivers right now already getting themselves all set up here as it's going to be tight under braking it into Cunningham corner, and going defensive is none other than the pole racing driver who right now holding his ground and well trying to move on here to Sandoval, but I don't think he's going to be able to there as Breteau continues to put some pressure on him. Further back we see Elias Finoli there battling with Max Andrews and Hayden Bramley at the head. Bramley missed the front bumper, plus also I suspect a lot of handling components to the car. He does have a meatball flag, which does indicate he needs to come into the pits for repair work, otherwise the car will be disqualified for the race after 3 laps, and Max Andrews right now just following onwards as they make the way in towards Bishop. But meanwhile, from there, going back to the front of the field, here is William Rasmussen, who right now is having trouble breaking away from Luis Glania. Glania staying right with him then as they head all the way in towards turn number 17. And these drivers right now definitely starting to get themselves set. And Glania can never be counted out. He's won multiple races this season. And right now, the number 2 definitely try to prove he is number 1 when it comes to these strength of field races. Vito Corrales in third there, watching as well. So this might be a game of patience as they come towards the end of lap number 1. So after one tour of the circuit, it's Rasmussen ahead of Glania, followed by Corrales. That's your top 3. Olsen is in 4th, ahead of Sharpless. Then it's Luciano. Then we do have Hammer in 7th place, and Hammer right now breaking away from Revilla, who's under pressure on Mitchum, and that's 8th and 9th. Then we have Cabrera completing your top 10. Fight behind, however, that's going to be Benjamin Breteau ahead of Scott Brazier. But Brazier right now, the Scottish driver here looking for a move. But the problem is he's got Guy Edwards on his inside now. But Edwards there decides to back off, does not try to push the pace here. Indeed, does want to risk battling hard and letting none other than Quinto Sandoval break away. Well, and also, the Argentine driver also trying to chip away in 11th place and open up a gap. So therefore, this is going to be a bit of a game of work together or not. But right now, Luis Glania is trying to work hard with his brakes up the inside of Rasmussen. Into the hairpin, he'll get the move done. Oh, that's going deep. That's Sharpless. Sharpless going very deep there into the hairpin. Collects it just in the nick of time. But Philip Hammer there says, no can do to you when he tries to make his way on through. And he does so very comfortably there. Does the pole promotion esports driver as it's getting very tetchy there in the fight for the lead. Your top 4 very close together here as we look back for the rear of the leader. And the pole promotion esports driver right now started second. Missed out on pole position by only thousands. And right now, William Rasmussen's got to try and find a way back here. They've got plenty of time to do so. But do keep in mind as well the fact that all these drivers right now, well, they know about the fact that here at Sebring, much like any other circuit on the calendar, they can only use the tyres at maximum attack for about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on the conditions, after which they will then end up in a situation where they will have some laps where they don't have the pace available to them. So, do they conserve the pace now? Do they protect the tyres and give themselves pace later in the race? Or do they have to go full attack early? Well, I think we can see an answer to that from William Rasmussen. They're using all the grass and plenty of the tarmac to try and keep it on the road, but in the end getting a bit wrong there and falls backwards as Tobias Olsen, he's all over the back of Corrales. So Corrales going defensive here as they make the way down the back stretch. In the end, it's going to get very close, but not too close to enable a move. But Tobias Olsen, I think, trying to put some mental pressure onto Corrales. And right now, Vito is doing a fantastic job of holding on to 3rd place in the number 10 as they come to the end of a second tour. But meanwhile, from then, we look back to Nicolas Gomes, the Brazilian driver who's had a great start, 4 places gained in the all-red number 12. And as he comes out of the final corner, where it's not a sunset on his race, it's sunrise right now as he's on the attack. And Guy Edwards and Benjamin Breteau are right in front with Scott Brazier leading the quartet. Through that left hand they come. Unfortunately, I'm hearing in my ear that Hayden Bramley's had a nightmare race with regards to that open lap contact, and we may not see him back out there. The car is being repaired, albeit it's going to take a long time, so therefore he will fall back that's down. As meanwhile, Guy Edwards dives up the inside there of Breteau. Breteau tries to go for the switch back here. It's a lovely bit of defensive driving from Breteau. And well, as they come to wide contact between the two of them, in the end they settle the differences, but Nicolas Gomes pounces on the opportunity, and Guy Edwards there, I suspect, was a small touch, but also a little bit of oversteer from a heavily loading up the rear right tyre under power out of turn number 5, plus the steering lock, and therefore 2 plus 2 added to 4, and that's why Guy Edwards went very sideways there. But I think fair racing between them, but it's just unfortunate for Guy Edwards pushing himself a little bit too hard, and Benjamin Breteau not wanting to give in one bit, understandably, because for these drivers right now, they are fighting for big points when it comes to their I ratings and also their end of season championship scores. But meanwhile, looking back to Bogran Avkul, he's all over the back of Carl McGuinness here. McGuinness has gained 4 places to the detriment of 1 to Avkul, and and therefore I think he's looking to try and move a little bit forward. But the problem is when he makes a mistake like that, albeit it doesn't look like a mistake coming out of Cunningham into Collier, but he did go a little bit deep into Collier, it's enabled Avcol to get a lot closer. But as we look back to the front of the field, your top four definitely trying to continue to sweep away here, but right now nobody able to really make a break, although Luis Garnier does seem to be a lot happier being the leader of this, as Rasmussen right now plays the watching game from behind, and Krells is there with him. But with that, we need to take a look back at the drama at the start of the race, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen, a quick replay of what happened at the start. So this was coming through turns 3, 4 and 5. We start with the perspective of Elias Finoli, who was caught up in this. The Maxim Racing powered by Ice Cold Racing Machine. He went very sideways, and meanwhile Hayden Bramley was right in the middle of that. I'm not quite sure what happened, but we can definitely tell you it all went wrong. Here's a further replay for Bramley. So we saw the number 11 go very sideways. Bramley contacted there. Whose car was that? I can't quite see the number. Oh my goodness. And straight on into him was none other than Kim Andre Bjørlund. Bjørlund had nowhere to go in all of that, and understandably it was a bit of a nightmare. But we take a look back at that from Bjørlund's onboard perspective, and this was the perspective of Bjørlund. So you see he's right in the battle here with the number 12 coming through the corner. It's all looking good. Car goes slightly sideways in front. He won't have seen that, and he suddenly sees some smoke, dodges the first stricken car, number 11, and suddenly, surprise, surprise, Hayden Bramley's car just appears out of thin air. It's obscured by all the other cars, and for Bjørlund, that was his race in arrears. That's what happened right at the start. We're not going to dwell on that any longer because we've got some brilliant live racing going on. So back to your live pictures we come, and as we do, well, Bjørlund has got his car repaired, I'm pleased to announce. Unfortunately, Bramley is now 2 laps down, still being repaired, so therefore everyone's still out there minus one driver. Speaking of one driver trying to make some progress, we've also got Brazier. I think it might have been Brazier who was in the contact of Bramley based on the colorations. In fact, no, I do apologise. It was Ivan Lendorso. The colours there match up on the car, and that would explain this. So Lendorso in contact with Bramley, and they might have some words after the race. But meanwhile, as our drivers continue onwards, well, Costa Sandoval and Brazier fighting side by side still, and right now it does look as though the pole racing driver able to get the job done, as Brazier and Barreto watching from behind. Absolutely brilliant battle between these drivers, and all looking good. But we have had a change, and some of you have spotted it in the YouTube chat, and well done to you. What's happened to William Rasmussen, who's dropped all the way from 2nd down to 5th place? We're going to get a replay of that very shortly to find out, because there has been a change there. I suspect it's been a small mistake, because we haven't got any data to say he's fallen off the circuit. I suspect it's probably a lock-up somewhere at one of the major braking zones, and he's recovered it, but not the places that he's lost. Meanwhile, we stay transfixed here to the fight for 12th place for now. As Costa Sandoval defending versus Brazier. Brazier looking around the outside, and Barreto tucking in behind because Gorman's there as well. They'll go 2 wide into Sunset Bend, but look at this. And Barreto, he says there to Brazier, I know what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to go for the cutback. I'm going to get on your inside and make this 3 wide down the start finish straight. Pulls back into the toe there, then breaks back out onto the outside line. He doesn't know which way to put the car at the moment. He's a bit indecisive. He's got to be careful of that because the cars behind will be trying to capitalise on that indecisiveness. And then Barreto tucks in behind Brazier. Brazier right now puts himself in the middle of the road. Sandoval goes defensive. It is an absolute scramble between these drivers. Great racing. It continues. Sandoval there defending hard. Here comes Sandoval. What is none other than Barreto up the inside of Brazier. Brazier just holds his line or thereabouts. It is getting very nip and tuck here. And this is just to get to the best of the rest. Spot in 11th place. Albeit they're fighting over 12th with Lendorso right now being able to pull away. And as they make their way onwards, well, here comes Guy Edwards full of steam. Does he decide to go in on the brakes? No, he plays it sensible there and waits his turn. But we've all been waiting patiently to know what happened at the very front. There's your confirmation. That's Luis Gladiator ahead of Corrales and Olsen. But we're missing our actor of William Rasmussen. Here he is. But how did he end up going backwards? Here is a replay, ladies and gentlemen, to explain. So this was coming into Sunset Bend. He was in 2nd at the time. You see Vito Corrales looking up the inside. Rasmussen there. And he went into the braking zone. They got all the way to the apex. Went deep. And, well, gave up 1 place. So then how did he lose another 2? Because he's also lost out there to Joey Latriciano. And, well, as they made the way down the start finish straight. Did he get it wrong into Genderbean corner, perhaps? We're going to see what happened here very shortly. We'll stay on this replay for a little bit longer. And it doesn't look as though he made a mistake, Rasmussen. So I wonder where he's just relinquished the places because he had to go for the move. But this might be telling here. Looked one way, then looked the other, and then went deep. He locked up on the front left brake into turn number 3. So pushing hard versus Vito Corrales and lost the places and immediately came back into the running order. Well, brilliant recovered there from our pole sitter because of the fact that many would get it wrong, go straight on. But right now, all pushing on as we say hello there to Hayden Races, or Hayden Bramley, who understandably very frustrated there in the YouTube chat, but glad to have you with us, Hayden. I'm very sorry to see what happened right at the start for you, and the only commiseration that we can say really is that we're glad to have you with us right now and that we've seen you on the grid today. We also say hello there to Grilled Pixels, also to Fabian HD, and we're happy to have so many of you with us tuning in on a weekly basis, and well, what a brilliant strength of field we've got here. But as we head towards the halfway point of this race, well, the lead battle stays very close. We've got a slow down for Matt Mitchum. That's for cutting track limits at turn number 3 into 4. So Mitchum's going to have to burn some time, but with that, he will fall back into the clutches of Lino Cabrera, and Cabrera there's not too far away. 2 seconds is the gap, and he will try to close that as quickly as he can. But from them, we've got some fighting going on here. This is much further down the order, but to be fair, there are fights up and down the field. Let's not forget about them. And this is a big fight here for Bugrad Avkul versus Max Andrews. Andrews is on the right of your picture. He's the attacker here. Avkul is defending. And on the break, he'll go too wide into the hairpin. And well, no move there from Andrews. He rides the back of his rival. But we have had a change of leader. Vito Corrales has just passed Luis Gladier coming through turn number 10. We're going to get a replay of that when we can. But Gladier trying to come back in it right now. Can't find his way on in as we will jump on board the dashboard camera there of Tobias Olsen. Olsen is still right in the midst of this pack, and well, he's always one to watch out for as the ice cold racing powered by Maxim racing driver, because Tobias Olsen has a very different philosophy compared to a lot of drivers in these grids. He's very patient. Now, patience is a virtue. All the drivers have a degree of patience, but with Tobias Olsen, honestly, I get the feeling right now, if you said to him, you've got to wait until the very final lap before you do anything, he will be a driver who can do that. He just has that mental fortitude not to be goaded into battling. So therefore, as he does see Gladier go defensive here, we'll be hoping that Gladier just continues his line. So you can see Gladier holds his line, Olsen taps him on the rear and says to him, no, keep going forward, don't fight. But in the end, as they go the way through turn number 17, I think they are going to be dragged into a fight. So Olsen now's got to react a little bit. He's going to take a nice wide line there to open up the circumference of the corner, and that gives him some speed versus Latriciano behind him. So the American driver can't find a way through, or can he? He's all over the back of third and second here. They head into Genderby corner, and right now Olsen defends the inside line a bit there, covering off the number 17. Latriciano doing a fantastic job here today in terms of qualifying, having started in 6th up to 4th already. But right now here comes the fascination, because he's going to look around the outside of Olsen into turn number 3. It's not going to come off from William Rasmussen. He's all over the back of this, and Philip Hammer has crept onto the back of this. Mr. Consistent, we like to refer to him. He's not the fastest driver, but he's one of the most consistent out there. And indeed, if you tell him a lap time he needs to hit, so long as he can hit it once, he will hit it time and time again. And he's brought himself right into the back of this as he gets himself all set up. But your top 5 have definitely closed up, and Hammer right now is playing the game of patience, as meanwhile also goes a bit deep there at turn number 7. That's Latriciano up the inside, and well, these two will be side by side, but will that enable the top 2 to pull away? We'll see as they come in towards turn number 10. Wonderful camera angle there, gives you a sense of the speed they attack Fangio, and on the brakes, well, around the outside goes Olsen. That's brave. That is incredibly brave to go for. He's going to carry it all the way through Collier Bend, and Tobias Olsen right now, the gloves are off here, the patience has burned. Contact was ready to move over the curve. Oh my good lord, and somehow Tobias Olsen gets it stopped. No, he doesn't. He hits the tyre barrier, but how on earth they managed to get through all that and not go cartwheeling off the road, I'm not quite sure. Olsen has come off with a degree of damage, but somehow Joey Latriciano has survived that huge leap off the curb, and that's when the two of them fought so hard in towards Cunningham Bend, and in the end only one of them could get away with it in Collier, and in the end neither one did. As they all make the way around, we're right now I'm being informed as they're well there from Zach Head. Good evening to you, Zach. I hope you're doing well. That for Joey Latriciano, this is his home circuit. I believe he hails from Florida, so understanding right now there is a bit of personal pride on the line here, and well, he's fighting incredibly hard, but I wonder if he's got some suspension damage on that car. He goes very deep there at Sunset, and I think there might be more than meets the eye of the number 17. It may be a car that right now is wounded, because Philip Hammer gets the place, albeit does seem as our 17 driver's going to come back at him immediately in the all red and black machine. But roaring the way down the straight right now, Philip Hammer's going to get a full burst of the American driver's defensive driving. He is very committed, I can tell you that, as they head through that left-hander, and the pole racing car holding on. 2-1, they come into turn number 3, and Hammer in the end has to fall back. There is no way in at the moment, and right now there may be no way in at the end, but there's definitely an in for Ryan Sharpless as he makes his way on around, and well, we can see the Taiwanese driver here looking for an opportunity. Albeit Oscar Rivella's also closed up behind. But my lord, ladies and gents, we need to take a look back at that whole moment between Triciano and Olsen. And here it is. And, well, we might be able to get an alternative camera angle here. Coming out of turn number 10 then. A bit of power oversteer there for Triciano. And as they came through 11, Olsen running the car out a little bit wide. And that led to contact with the American driver. Not saying it's Olsen's fault, to be fair. But that camera angle makes it look like he ran the American out of a bit of road room. It could be a very different story in reality. And that's how they end up coming into contact. Because Triciano was never going to back out from that. This was the on-board from his perspective, and you'll see brilliant fighting between them, maximum respect between both drivers. Power oversteer there, and this is where it gets pinched. He's holding the outside. Some would argue he should have backed out there, but he didn't want to because he knew he'd lose the time to Rasmussen, and unfortunately both drivers came to blows, and that's what led to them both leaping like horses over the apex curve at turn number 12. But back to your live race we go, and as we do, all these drivers right now heading closer and closer towards the final third. It has been an incredible race so far. We've got more to come. Looking back to 10th place, here's Lino Cabrera, who is all over the back of Tobias Olsen. Olsen does need to pit within 3 laps of being awarded that meatball flag. He has got damage to the car that's significant enough to require him to come into the pit. So we will see him peel off. And when he does, Lino Cabrera will take 9th place back. And suddenly Ivan Lendoroso will be taking his way into 10th place. A very lonely 10th at the moment. But I don't think he's going to be complaining too much, given the fact he started in 12th. So he's gained a couple of places. Looking further back, Carl McGuinness and Elias Finoli. Well, these two try to fight each other right now. They've been rivals over the course of previous races, no doubt about it. But it's been some time since we've seen them share the tarmac together. So we'll keep an eye on that one when we can. But as Tobias also makes his way in towards turn number 1, there's Lino Cabrera up the inside. And Olsen here, I think, playing the game of gradually losing the places. As we briefly lose some frame rate for a second. Don't worry, don't adjust your TV set, ladies and gentlemen. That's on our end, not yours. And the cameras are playing a little bit of catch-up here. But hopefully that's not the sign of something that's systemic. But Olsen there trying to take a peek, but he's not going to be able to. From them, meanwhile, we come back to your leaders, and here's Vito Corrales and Luis Glania. 2.5 tenths between these two drivers. They are still fighting absolutely as hard as possible. And as they make the way out of turn number 7 and all that towards turn number 10, they are still absolutely pushing it to the limit. And you can tell because William Rasmussen is 1.5 seconds behind and he's not closing anymore. In fact, he is finding that his time is becoming static. He did set a personal best on the previous lap at 202.35, but keep in mind Corrales' last lap at 202.32, Glania at 202.23. The mathematics adds up to say that right now Rasmussen needs to go quicker. And that's not to insult him, but he needs to burn that time down, because if not, what's going to happen is the top two are going to be staying as they are, and I suspect they will avoid fighting until the final lap, and that's when they'll put the boxing gloves on. However, at that point, if they fight immediately, Rasmussen may have a chance, but you don't want to leave it up to chance if you're the third place guy. You want to get closer. He needs to get that gap down to about a second. If he does so, he'll pick up the distant toe, and that's when he'll feel as though he can then manage the race and see how the top two start to fight on the penultimate and the final lap, and he gives himself the best possible opportunity. Meanwhile, Triciano, in a car that's definitely got a few bruises on it, he's holding on to 4th, and he's keeping Hammer, Sharpless and Rivilla at bay. But for how long can he keep them there? As he's got a fellow American also trying to get close to this group in the stock Porsche 992 racing colours. That is none other than Matt Mitchum as he makes his way through the final quarter. And as he does so right now, Mitchum staying close there, but how close can he get before all is said and done? Coming onwards then, and as he does, we also look there to Lino Cabrera behind. He's got Tobias Olsen still with him. Olsen still playing the game of ride in the rear, and I believe he will have to come in at the end of this lap given the condition of the car. But from that, we say hello there to RP Corp. Hope you're doing well, good sir. Cheering on none other than Triciano. And well, from them, and all he tries right now, we have had a bit of drama for Benjamin Baratou back in the rearward positions of the running order. What exactly happened to him? Here's a quick replay. So this was Baratou making his way into Gender B and Bend, at the time running in what was, I believe, 17th place. Rear of the car just let go there, went spinning around, and unfortunately slid to the tyre barrier. And when you have an impact like that, even at about 50 miles an hour, you are not getting the car back without a tow to the pits. That will be suspension damage. But right now, let's not do damage to the fact we're missing some live racing action. And indeed, right now, we want to miss this for any moment, because that's Corrales versus Glania. Riding on board here with Corrales, as we can see, Glania getting so close to the back of him, constantly poking, prodding, looking every which way. And Luis Gladier right now, I think, responding in the fact that every time Corrales just simply holds his ground, he's looking for another opportunity. He's looking for another place just to get that little bit closer. It's incredible between these two drivers, but Corrales right now has the unenviable task of trying to hold his position as best as possible. It's not going to be easy. 2 tenths between these drivers and still more to come as they exit the way out of turn number 15. Well, out of turn number 16, I should say, and down the Allman Straight. Well, they have definitely absconded from the rest of the field, but they may not be away from them for long. Because we're on lap number 10, we've got another 3 to go come the end of this one. And if they really start to fight, you can imagine Rasmussen, Latriciano, Hammer, Sharpless and Revilla, they will all be there. And if so, we will have an absolutely thrilling fight to the checkered flag. But we've got to get there first. Another lap on the board, and as they make the way on through, we look to a side-by-side fight here between Scott Brazier on the inside there, the Scotsman in the Martini black machine with the pink rim, so you can't mistake him for anybody else. And he's just made a move there for 11th place versus Ivan Lendorso. And well, brilliant move, but Lendorso is going to look around the outside here in towards what will be Gendavian. And while they go too wide on entry, it's a very deceptive camera angle, that, because it makes you think they're side-by-side until you suddenly see that they're not quite in that position. And as I head in towards turn number 3, right now Brazier still ahead just by a sliver, but he does confirm the move. Back to the front, well, Corrales and Glanier. Glanier was looking for the move. He was within a 10th there into the braking zone, but he decided to back out. And right now these drivers oscillating back and forth, and I think Luis Gladier at this point is now mentally getting to the position where there's a devil on his shoulder that says go for the move. There's also an angel on the other shoulder that says don't do it just yet. It's a very hard place. You've got to be very tempered when you're racing this close, because obviously you want to battle each other as hard as possible, but the problem is that he's not going to be able to for long if suddenly he brings Rasmussen into this. And the fact that these two are now stepping on each other's toes, Rasmussen has gone the fastest of everybody in sector 2 on this lap. He has actually closed the gap down by 3 tenths over that sector alone. So right now Williams Rasmussen is 1.2 seconds behind. He is getting closer. You won't see him at the moment on that timing box in the bottom right, but I can promise you when it gets to a second, he will suddenly appear on it. And I don't think it's going to be long as the sparks fly there as Corrales bouncing us over the apex curve at turn number 15. My good lord, man. That is a suspension that's very low to the ground when it comes to the ride height, and therefore bounced off those curves where he's got to be careful. That hits them too hard too often, and suddenly that might be a damaged suspension before we know it. But down the Allman Straight they go. Glanier again close as the sun just gradually looks off in the distance here. Plenty of cloud as well. Glanier here close, but is he close enough? Knows the answer. He just has to wait a little bit more. We go on to the penultimate lap there as they come out of the final corner, and as they do, Rasmussen at 1.2 seconds back, but watch out for him in the rear of the picture. He can be there. Then you have this long line of cars of full place. Joey Latriciano, Hammer, Sharpless and Revilla all together as they head in towards turn of 1. It's close. Philip Hammer right now just staying firmly in position, and I suspect his thought process will be just to ride the back of his rival, as we now do have a disqualification flag for Tobias Olsen. That is for the fact he has not pitted despite the damage, and he will be forced into the pit lane immediately as a result. So Olsen will drop down the order, and I think he decided just to play it safe and enjoy the racing until he eventually be taken out of it, because he evaluated it would be the equivalent of coming in for the repair work. So it's getting very heated now between our drivers as we come back to the front. Corrales and Gladius still as they were, and right now Luis Gladius is teasing us. It's the equivalent of lifting a little bit of a skirt, if you will, in terms of trying to show off, and right now he definitely is getting to a position whereby I think next lap you're going to see a big move come from Luis Gladier, and we're going to be ready to capture it when we can. Sharpless right now still with Hammer and Revilla right behind, and then from them we look to Bugran Avkor. He's still fighting with Elias Finoli for 16th place. And these drives all still nose to tail, and in front of it is Elias Finoli and Max Andrews. Finoli is the one that Avkor wants, and this little fight is also going on here for what will be the last spots towards the bottom end of the field. But still, whether they're towards the front or the rear, everyone's having a bit of fun out there, there's no doubt about it. Sebring is definitely delivering here today. Well, from the delivery of their race, we come back to delivering you what's happening in the fight for fourth. As Latriciano right now still keeping Hammer, Sharpless and Revilla behind. But there you can see in the foreground camera shot, that's Corrales and Glanier. 3.5 tenths is their gap. William Rasmussen is now 8 tenths behind. So remember, we said 3 laps ago, he will try to get that gap down to sub 1 second. He's done it. Now he's in the attacking position. But it'll come on to the final lap and see what he can do there. As Philip Hammer, meanwhile, looks up the inside. Briefly, Latriciano goes deep. Hammer's done exactly what he needs to do. He sights the American into a snake, and the German driver now is going to try and look to take the place. He does initially, but now, will it all explode? Will we see a big battle down towards Genderbean corner? We are, as Hammer here goes defensive. Latriciano looks around the outside immediately. You can see everyone else is trying to follow on that outside line. Under braking into Genderbean bed. Well, Hammer right now just holds that inside as fiercely as humanly possible. But Latriciano goes to the switchback here. Hammer into the middle of the road. Over to the inside he goes. And here comes Sharpless as well behind. Latriciano trying to go around the outside, but he's going to be on the inside for 4. That's going to put him on the outside of 5. Hammer right now just needs to hold his line, just use all the tools at his disposal, and does exactly that. Back to the front of the field. Well, this is where Lewis Gladdy has been very strong over the last couple of laps, but he's nowhere near close enough this time. Is he going to go for the send into the hairpin? If so, that's going to come from quite far back, and he opts not to. I think he plays it safe. William Rasmussen is there with him. Meanwhile, Hammer going defensive. It's 2 by 2. It's not Noah's Ark, it's Porsche Cup or the equivalent. And as they come out of turn number 7 and up towards turn number 10, right now Hammer and Latriciano are fighting 2 wide. Sharpless and Revilla are doing the same now over 6th place behind, so it's getting very close, and well, nobody is giving in yet. And will we see more of what happened earlier on between Latriciano and Olsen repeat here? Well, he's going to go for it as Latriciano. He's going to do it a second time, outside to inside here. Hammer on the outside. Does he back off? He does what Olsen did, and in the end Hammer stays there. He shows you can go 2 wide through there and in towards turn number 30. He's on the inside. It's a squeeze. Latriciano's there. Contact. There's contact between them, and Latriciano survives it. Hammer helps straighten him out, and that's going to enable Sharpless and what is that other than Revilla to come through? Sharpless is through, but what about Revilla? Can he get through? I don't think he can. I think Hammer's going to split the 2 as Latriciano drops by Mitchell behind. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, let's come back to them quickly. Corrales is still leading. Gladdy is there. Rasmussen's there, and Vitor Corrales has only got to hold on for 1 more corner and sprint to the finish line. It's been built up to crescendo, but right now this has been a little bit of a slow burner in this final lap. Luis Gagnier is there, but can he find a move? I don't think he can, but Corrales goes deep, but that's by design there. He decides to risk it all for the better exit out the corner, and I think he's done it, ladies and gentlemen, as he makes it out the final corner for Vitor Corrales. It's going to do a sprint to the checker flag, and he takes victory here at Sebring ahead of Luis Gladyer and William Rasmussen. That's your top 3. Then it will be, oh my goodness, there's drama at the finish line. Philip Hammer comes across as Ryan Sharpless is turned there. Oscar Revilla takes 6th place ahead of Matt Mitchum, and then we will have Joey Latriciano in 8th ahead of Lino Cabrera, who sneakily makes his way to a 9th place finish ahead of Scott Brazier, with Ivan Lendroso finishing best the rest of the 11th ahead of Rene Cortet Sandoval, and then we'll have Nicolas Gomez in 13th place ahead of Guy Edwards and Max Andrews who rounds off your top 15, and it'll be Elias Finoli and Bukran Avkul 16th and 17th as they were when we left them, with Carl McGuinness bringing up the rear in 18th place, parking up with his teammates there. That's a lovely shot if you ever wanted one of them all together. Then we'll have Vitor Alves finishing in 19th at the rear of your picture. There's a bit of a close-up on him, and we've still got 1 driver to go, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause as he makes his way around. He's been a bit of a nightmare day, to be fair, has Kim Andre Björlund. The car is heavily damaged, but his spirits are not damaged, I can tell you that. And what is a car that definitely I think is going to be going to the scrapyard after this one, with the fact he's been heavily compacted at the front. Well, he's going to make his way on around. But as he does so and heads towards the finish of his race, we are in fact going to catch a replay of what happened right at the finish line between Philip Hammer and Ryan Sharpless, as I think there was contact between those drivers, but what exactly happened to them? And the answer is, here's a replay to explain. So, making their way down the back straight, Sharpless was ahead, of course, because of Hammer's contact with Latriciano earlier on the lap. 2 wide, they went into Allman Bend, but as they came on through, well, side by side all the way. Now, Sharpless was on a tighter exit line, so he would have lost some speed. Hammer was on the outside, squeezed a bit, but survived it. And then we catch it right there. And in the end, I think both drivers went the space, and they've intersected each other. Can we get the onboard from Hammer? I think that will definitely give us a bit of a better picture. Yes, we can. So this was Hammer. Look around the outside, and he went for it here knowing that Sharpless was never going to let the inside line go, so he's still there. He's on that inside at the moment, and Hammer here, you'll see, gets the power down. He's quite behind, but he gets the better exit out the corner, comes across a little bit there. Oh, goodness me. I think both drivers just weave slightly onto each other. The camera's not flattering and very accurate, to be fair, so don't count us on it. But I think in the end, both drivers just converged slightly. They would have survived it if they were perfectly straight. And Sharpless, in his aspirations to hold the position, in the end came onto the same path that Hammer wanted to cut across onto, and that's how they ended up in that contact. I can't quite say who might be to blame there, but it's not my role to be fair. That's what the iRacing stewards to do, not the commentator. But right now, definitely definitely a bit of a controversial ending to their race, but what a race, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And as we do come back then to your live pictures, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. Provisional, of course, subject to Eddie Stewart's. And as we can see, Week 11's top split broadcast of the 2025 Season 4 campaign of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT did not disappoint. And here in the American state of Florida, at Sebring, we saw Vito Corrales take victory in the end, proving to be inflappable on the final lap, the Belgian driver, versus the German of Luis Glania, who started in second and finished second, whereas Corrales made it from third to first. William Rasmussen, unfortunate there to lose the lead early on in absolutely brilliant battling, but the Rebellion Esports driver on home soil did everything he could at the end and made it onto the podium. Philip Hammer, fourth at the finish line there for Pole Promotion Esports after some late contact between himself and Brian Sharpless. But to be fair, let's put that aside and talk about the good things. Fantastic racing between the two of them, and unfortunately a bit of contact at the end, but it was always going to potentially happen when high tempers and spirits are on the line. Sharpless did a brilliant job to come through the field after losing some places early on and finished in fifth, having started fourth on his debut. Great to see him give it his all. And of Oscar Rivera, who took 6th place, the Spaniard, and once again had a very solid race, starting 9th and just moved forward. Matt Mitchum as well, debut race today, and the Arret Esports driver doing a fantastic job ahead of Joey Latriciano, or the pole racing driver that he'll be gutted to have missed out on the podium, given how strong he was early in the race, but that contact between himself and Tobias Olsen costing him. But at the same time as well, I think they'll talk about that one and learn what they could have done better, the pair, and well, the Floridian driver there doing an absolute great job of giving us a spectacle. We then did see in 9th place there, Lino Cabrera for Rincon, doing a great effort as always, ahead of Scott Brazier. The Scotsman there fighting hard to move from 16th to 10th, ahead of Ivan Lendroso, with the Argentine driver there, best of the rest. René Corta finished in at 12th, but let's talk about his full name, René Corta Sandoval, and behind the Rebellion GT3 driver was the privateer of Nicolas Gomez, and it was Guy Edwards and Max Andrews who rounded off your top 15. From the pole sim racing driver, it was then Elias Finoli ahead of Bugran Avkul, with Carl McGuinness, Victor Alves and Kim Andre Bjorland wrapping up your top 20, and all those who finished on the lead lap. And finishing a pair of laps down in the end was Tobias Olsen for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing. It was 5 laps down as classified for Benjamin Baratov. And then we did see, unfortunately, with the retirement after the opening lap due to that contact at turn number 5, Hayden Bramley there, the only retiree from this race. But you got to feel for him because he was looking to have a good scrap today. So that's how they all finished, ladies and gentlemen. And a huge congratulations, of course, to our top 3 of Vito Corrales, Luis Glania, and William Rasmussen. But with that, just before we wrap up, let's take a little bit of time to hear a word about our sponsor for this series, and that, of course, is CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our penultimate round of the 2025 Season 4 campaign. But fret not, we have one more strength-fulfilled top split broadcast to come, and in a week's time, we head to the United Kingdom for the Snetterton 200 circuit, I believe, to see how it all concludes in week 12 of 12 on Wednesday, the 3rd of December 2025. And of course, that will be a special broadcast in a way, because it will be the last time in the official iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT series you will see the current Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car race. Because remember, in 2026 we have the arrival as a Season 1 of the Porsche 992.1 Cup car, I do believe, and well, it's a different car with new electronics and a little bit more engine power, so it's going to be the ultimate send-off to the current car. So do come join us then in our regular time slot, and that of course will be at the 21:45 GMT or UTC split, where we'll see all the drivers give it their all in the United Kingdom to end 2025 on a high. But until then, we've been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, I like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.